No, I want you to go back.
Yeah.
After your album before this, right after that releases, that dies down, and you start to say, "I'm an artist. I want another album," and the concept behind that. Where did the idea spring from? Where were you going with this?
It was the idea that on that album was kind of more homogenous, and there was more like continuity and kind of an ambient folk atmospheric thing, and kind of the songs went together. And then I'd always dreamed for years about doing something where an album where I had went from style to style, back to back on the same album.
And so this is an ambitious project, right?
Yeah.
Start with, I mean, this is you bouncing around the universe of music that you know and understand.
Right.
Did you know going in, hey, this is going to be pretty ambitious, a task to tackle?
Yeah, I knew that this was going to be like the most ambitious thing I'd ever done, and I always dreamed of doing an album where I'd put everything on one record that I was influenced by, all the styles that I was influenced by on one album.
Why was that important to you?
Just to represent my musical experience and just have it all contained on one work, but just everything that I've been influenced by, all the styles.
So take me back to
and all the influences of all the artists from those styles too.
You go through the whole process, which I know was not easy. It was a lot to it. There was a lot of emotion and energy spent. There was a lot of effort and skill involved. You finish. The idea in your mind, this dream, this master plan of, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do everything, versus the finished product. Tell me how they relate, how the experience was like you thought it would be, and maybe some of the challenges.
I do remember when I started, I had this idea of doing everything, doing all the styles that I was influenced by, but I think the thing that changed from my initial inspiration was that even though the styles, that concept was still there when I started, what changed as I went through the process was just the inspiration of the music itself. So some of that was more spontaneous.
How did that
within
change?
Those styles? It was an idea of, well, one thing I did was do a funk song, because I just thought it would be fun to do a funk song. And part of the reason I did the funk song, and this kind of goes into another subject, but doing that was that another concept that was doing the funk song was part of a continuum of doing stuff that was more upbeat and lighthearted, as opposed to a lot of kind of introspective singer-songwriter kind of pensive stuff. And I wanted to do stuff that was more upbeat, like the rock stuff and the funk song, and to go against what I had done on that previous album. So I wanted more rock stuff, more upbeat stuff.
Did you get it?
And
Did you get what you wanted out of it?
And I got what I wanted, yeah, definitely.
So we got Latin, funk, folk, prog. Anything else?
We got hard rock, Aeon.
Okay. Do you have classical on here?
Yeah, and then there's a couple of pieces on there that are classical.
Like?
The Seraphics. And that one, yeah. That's the one, that was Bach and Vivaldi influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one that have strings on
Is that a challenge for you? Like, is that one that you said, man, I got to really do something on this one?
To some degree, yeah. Yeah, it was also, there's some harmonic things in there that I wanted to get across, which won't make sense because it's musical terminology, but it's...
What was the most challenging song for you on this?
But I remember on that one, that was great inspiration. At the end of that, I was in tears when I was coming up with that. I had tears because I knew I had something really special.
So you've touched on something, a subject you know I love. That moment, you said you were in tears. You knew you had something great. Tell me about that specific, almost divine moment as an artist when, oh my gosh, I've got something.
Well, it's an indescribable feeling, because you feel like you're calling something out of nothing.
Yeah. So tell me that moment where it's so rich, the emotion inside of you. I've got something great. I've hit on something that is almost beyond what I am.
You said divine, and beyond what I am, it is like an ether. It's almost like a divine sort of intervention. The term that I would use is channeling a higher force.
Yeah.
Whether it be divine or something else, it's a force outside of yourself that if you're lucky enough, you manage to capture.
And you don't get to always exist in that wavelength. It's like you just sort of happen upon it for a moment, and there's this inspiration, and it's pouring out of you.
Exactly.
It's pouring out of you, and you want to. Let me see. Do you want to catch as much of it as you possibly can?
That's exactly how it is.
Is there an urgency to it?
There's a very extreme urgency to that, because if you don't, you will lose it. And I've lost many things. I mean, I'll have to, if I don't get it right then and there, I could lose it within 10 minutes. And then never to attain again.
So how do you do it? How do you do it? Do you get a recorder right then? Do you know, oh my gosh, I've got something
I get a recorder right then, or if I'm on the computer, I have the software that I'll get the ideas down on.
So you just need to get something that you'll remember.
Something to make it from the intangible to tangible.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so when it happens, when it works, like it did on this song, it's emotional.
Exactly, it is. It's an overpowering feeling. Like I said, I can't describe it.
It's interesting.
Feeling, yeah.
Is that the? There's a lot of great moments as an artist. Is that one of the sort of best when you capture that sort of divinity that is beyond you?
To me, that is the pinnacle of art.
That moment.
Yeah.
You're alone. You don't necessarily have to be around. You don't have to have fans adoring you. Yeah. It's that moment when you've captured something. Yeah. Why?
Because I think because how I explained it, it's just so.
Why is it better than everything else?
It's because it's at the moment of creation, and everything is completely new. It's the genesis of something that is completely new. So, and because of that, it's new to your ears. And being new to your ears, that's where it has probably the most emotional impact. Because it's like if you listening to a song for the first time that moves you, it's like that, but you're the artist. So you're the one creating it, and you're listening to it at the same time. And it's long before all the processes, before you have to practice it many times, before you have to then record it many times, before you have to mix it many times. And then, so it's the pinnacle of art.
Take me in that room when you're collaborating with somebody. What it's like when you're in a session and you're going through the process. And so take me in the room when somebody does something you don't expect and you really like.
That was part of one of the joys of it, because I was like, it's just very exciting, because then you see like your art kind of develop into something greater. It's an exciting feeling, because you're like, I didn't think to do that, I wouldn't have thought to do that. That's cool that you have that idea, the engineer, he said, well, have you thought about this, or, maybe we should add this, and I go, wow, I never would have thought of that, so.
It's like, chow, chow.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get on the second time through this. Did you hear it?
I did.
Oh, okay,
I kind of.
So you want to like that the first?
A little bit.
Yeah, I like that too. It's a good idea. This part.
Yeah.
Ready? Yeah. I got it. Yeah, I agree. I like that sound.
Do you like that collaborative process?
That was another thing that was different on this album, was the collaborative process and that's another thing that I really wanted to go against the grain of what I did on the last album, which I did everything myself, and most of the instruments, most of the writing, the mixing, the producing, all of it. So the collaborative effort was part of the antithesis of the other. last album.
And do you like that process? Though?
Yeah, yeah.
You tell me the pros and cons of it.
Much more fun.
Tell me the pros and cons of the collaborative process.
The pros of the collaborative process are that you are not your own worst enemy, basically. So you are collaborating with someone that you bounce ideas off of, and you have people that give second opinions, or it's like having another ear.
Artists that you respect.
Exactly, artists that I respect and people that I respect their work. So I wanted to have their input into this.
But knowing you as a person, and as an artist, and I know how you go through the process of reviewing these and stuff like this, how hard is it for you, somewhere deep inside, to give up a little bit of control on that? Talk about that. This is a struggle for you as a person and as an artist, maybe.
Yeah, probably, yeah. You know what? Giving up that control was actually liberating, because other people, when they brought their ideas to it, they were ideas that I thought were great that I might not have necessarily had, and it made me realize that this project could become greater than the sum of its parts, kind of.
Does that represent growth for you as an artist / person?
Yeah, it does, because having to give up that control was liberating, but it's also part of me growing and kind of maturity, because before I used to want to have on the last album, want to have all the control, and I became obsessive about it to the point where I thought I was getting, looking back, I got kind of diminishing returns, and on top of that, it just was not fun to do all that. It was just it's a lot more fun to work with people. It's just a lot more fun.
One thing I want to know is about you as an artist have a view of the meaning of an album as one artistic piece versus a single here, a single there, a blah, blah, blah. Tell me, one, your view, and two, how you brought this together as a single piece of art that needs to be viewed that way as well as the songs.
That was possibly the hardest thing that I did on this, because there's so many different stylistic, such a stylistic scope on this, that it was hard to put the songs back to back, and it took me 2 months to come up with a sequence of the album, so that was one of the hardest things to do, and it was one of the things that I prided myself on this, but also one of the most difficult things to do as far as sequencing goes, because there's different styles go.
I know you spent days just trying to come up with the order.
Like 2 months almost. Not every day, but 2 months on and off,
Well, as an artist, why is it important that people listen to your work as an album, not just as a hodgepodge of a song here, a song there?
Yeah, just because it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, it represents all the styles I was influenced by, and I'd like people to hear all those influences, and part of it was I remember when I started this, I had the idea of putting all these styles back to back. It was almost like a very rebellious thing, actually. I don't give a shit whether record companies or whether people that are listening to this think that it is marketable. I wanted it to be the antithesis in some way of being marketable, because it was just a, like I said, a rebellion against all of that. You can put it just having the choice of being able to put all these styles, being an independent artist, put whatever the hell styles on there I wanted to put on there and not give a damn whatever anyone really thought.
Do you think musicians will appreciate this music perhaps like other musicians will listen to it and go, oh, okay, I get it?
It's interesting you say that, because so far of the feedback, the most fervent sort of feedback I've gotten has been from musicians who have they've been really emphatic about how good it is.
Does that satisfy you in a different way than, if your friend's got a 12-year-old kid and he goes, oh, I like that song? If musicians come to you and say, oh man, I like this, does that give you a different sort of satisfaction?
It does. It does. It makes me appreciate it, because I appreciate that, because that was one of the things I kind of went into this project with, the idea of having musicianship being great. So it's always flattering to hear that. Musicianship was part of what I was really wanting to emphasize on this project. Was one of the things. It was composition, musicianship, and stylistic scope. spectrum of moods and performance. But musicianship was one of them. That's why I wanted to have these great players on it, which made it a lot better.
You sort of, I guess, had a different approach this time.
Yeah, I just wanted to have on this one, I wanted to add, have like nuanced stuff that made it stand out, even if it was like, you know, accidental things, like, you know, happy accidents, or, and adding something in, you know, adding some special things in, like leaving things in.
And that's not your nature, though, right? That you have that's almost a fight within yourself, because
Yeah.
you are a perfectionist, and to let that go a little bit is a battle for you.
It was a little bit of a battle, then, but what made me kind of reconsider how I've always done things is listening to stuff on recordings that I thought were really cool, and sometimes it was like little, you know, like fret changes. You know, you can hear strings on the guitar. You can hear like a cymbal hi-hat thing that counts something off, or you hear some feedback at the end, in the middle of a guitar solo or the beginning or end of it. So I tried to leave those things in when they happened, like organically or naturally.
You wanted to let it happen.
Yeah, yeah.
I gotcha. Tell me about this idea. I know that you thought this album was sort of many different rivers into one, all your influences sort of flowing into one conceptual project, but you wanted to bring something special to each of these songs. Tell me about the idea and the drive behind that.
I think it goes back to what I had said, but bringing something special to the performances, the recordings, to, you know, to make it more nuanced and more, just make it stand out a little bit. Make it, well, the idea is also just to make it being like, these are people, this is human, this is, you know, these are human nuances. Why should I take them out? Why should I try to, you know, leave those out, or, you know, remove them, or do another take to have those taken out? I mean, when that's what's sometimes the cool stuff in recordings.
The one thing I wanted to ask you was about, and we've talked about this concept before, especially in light of this album. You put all this work into a sort of an idea. It's as much an idea as it is an album, a vision. And your nature is somebody who's a perfectionist. How do you let go and give it to the world? How do you yourself, not an artist, you yourself say, okay, I have to let this go? But that's a challenge for you, right? Because you could still be mixing it today, couldn't you? If you let yourself, you could still just be mixing and mixing and perfecting and perfecting. That's the nature of a perfectionist, right?
Yeah, it is.
At some point, you got to give birth to it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's funny because this is posthumous. I mean, after the release, but I just read this book and recently called Daring Greatly, and one of the things she talks about is that there is no such thing as perfection, and how we have to accept our imperfect selves. And, you know, I wish I'd read that book, you know, before the last album. You know.
That's interesting advice for you, because you're a perfectionist when it comes to this music.
But the other thing is, I'm a perfectionist about the imperfections.
So you said something interesting.
I'm a perfectionist about the imperfections.
Tell me about that.
It goes back to what I was saying about wanting to have nuanced stuff in the recordings. If there was like an happy accident, something that was unintentional that happened that added to the recording. If I had to do another take of that, I would now want to get that in there. You know, I want to get that in there. Would you know, get to have the accident in there. And of course, you can't plan for accidents. It just happens or it doesn't. That's why you have to kind of like you have to let go. Okay, but because you can't recreate something like that. You can't recreate an accident. And sometimes you can't recreate performances. You just have to hope the engineer will do 8 takes or 7 takes, keep the recording on, and keep doing more and more takes to see what might happen naturally, see, or organically or accidentally, all of those things.
What's the moment like when you say, "That's it, I'm done. This is the finished product"?
It's a very great, it's an exalted feeling because it's such a relief. It's like, I remember being angry, irritable at the end with one of the engineers when he kept postponing something because I was so close. I was on the last song. I was like, And I got angry at him. I just want to get this fucking record out, you know. It was, but when it was all finished, it was like this relief. You know, I was like, God, you know, I was gonna let this go. Just like,
And so the last question.
but it's difficult to let go at the same time because you want to hold on to that.
The project
The
itself.
project. On some level, you still want to hold on to it. You want to be like, no, I'm still in the midst of this, and the process is what's so great, you know. So in some way, you don't want to let it go.
Well, it occupies a large part of your life for such a long time.
Yeah.
It's almost like a relative or a friend
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because it's there and you're constantly talking to it and looking at it and improving it and changing it.
Right. Right. Right.
And so, I've never heard it expressed this way, but the completion of a project is like a, what do they call it, la petite moire, a small death.
I hadn't thought of it that way. Yeah. Yeah, because when you're in the midst of it, it's still alive.
Yeah.
You have to let it go. There's a part of it that has to move on. You have to move on.
Finality.
It has to move on. Yeah, finality. Yeah.
Interesting.
I remember seeing that on a video a film documentary in Lord of the Rings where Peter Jackson is at the end of the third film, and like he has the artist, or not the artist, he has the actors doing like 20 takes even though he knows he's got the best one after the 10th, and they're like, well, what? Because he didn't want to let it go. Yeah. So what, you know, like the first one's a funk song, the Loper.
Motivated by.
Motivated by that goes back to what I was saying about putting something on there that's upbeat, and it's by far the most upbeat song I've ever done. You know. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I thought this would be a challenge for me. I've never done a funk song before.
That's interesting because you didn't go to what was comfortable on this album.
Right, exactly. I needed to get out of the comfort zone, you know. And the comfort zone has been, you know, the Latin Spanish stuff or the singer-songwriter ambient instrumental stuff. So funk was like as far away as you can get. You know.
Is there a risk in taking that chance?
Yeah, I would say so.
What was it?
Well, to know whether you could do it or not, you know. You know, I was like, well, I don't know if I can do this, but I should try, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got funk. What else? What else?
You know, I had horns in there, and you know.
Who all played on that song?
Jason Passmore, and Reece Harris.
And their contributions.
And there, speaking of contributions, I mean, those guys came in and brought, and then also the engineer, who's also an excellent trumpet player.
Who is he?
Laid down, Ken Gregory. He laid down the trumpet solo on that. And then Jason laid down the sax parts and the sax solo. I do remember something that was important about that, was that these guys were total pros, you know, and I thought they laid down some solos that were incredible. So I felt this pressure, like, oh my God, I gotta follow those guys now? You know, and I come up with a solo that like stands next to those, you know, I said, okay, I managed to pull it off though. I was like proud of it. The engineer loved it.
bass for half a second here.
Yeah.
Wow, what a tone.
That's sweet.
Great. It's like the perfect bass tone. You know?
Yeah, it's
It's got
great.
just the right highs and just the right highs
Yeah.
and lows.
I mean, that's why I used it on so much.
Wow.
Can you solo those sax parts?
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. So he's playing tenor and alto, right? I think.
Yeah, tenor and alto, and that was your idea to do that.
To do the double thing.
To do the double thing, yeah. And it was a great idea.
Well, Jason was such
Because
a
it fills it out.
yeah, and here's
Such an incredible player.
yeah.
Yeah, bring it all
Everybody
those
back
tracks.
in.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, come on.
Now, had Jason had a chance to look this stuff over before he came in that day, or did he?
Yeah, I sent him a chord chart
Yeah,
for this.
yeah.
Yeah. I sent him a chord chart. But that's all he had. He brought in the chord chart and then just laid down those
Just nailed
solos,
it.
you know. Yeah. Like 2 takes or something.
Pull Bruce's guitar up a little bit more.
Can you go back one more time?
Sure, no problem. I love that.
Yeah, I remember on this solo I did 2 good takes, and you, this was the one you liked, and I was like really indecisive about it, but you were like, no, that's the one, that's the one, it's got the ideas, it's got the feel
got
and
the
everything.
spirit, everything, yeah.
So I'm glad I added this to, like to
Sounding board,
yeah.
yeah.
Sounding board, yeah,
Right,
second
right.
ear, you know. But rewind that part one more.
Okay, sure. Here we go.
There's a rhythm part here. That rhythm part I was real proud of. I remember I was trying to thinking of something to do that was like different, added some type of syncopation.
Sure.
So I was like proud of, something that was a little different, that had like some kind of syncopation that sounded off, but trying to add something like special to the song that was a little different.
There was this one moment in the song, I don't know, a couple of minutes in, where everything breaks down and there's a drum fill to connect you to the next part. And the first take I did was this more or less rock-based fill, and played it, and we talked about it afterward, and Alonso said that was okay, but try something a little bit more, sophisticated than that. And again, to overplay is always taboo, but again, Alonso wanted me to really let it rip, and so I did this one, kind of begins on the hi-hat, I think, and it's kind of serendipitous thing happened where I kind of thought I'd made a mistake, but it actually turned out well, and we listened to it in the control room, and there was this eruptive joy over this happy accident in the fill.
eclipses old in the hope of new hope. Traces of the night they now seem to have flown, and as they fade away, I feel my spirit still yearning, although I have grown.
What's the first song that was an idea in your mind and you started working for on this project?
As far as the writing goes? Or
As far as the writing goes.
Yeah, it was Yearnings. Just the music of it. The music of Yearnings, yeah.
Okay. And tell me how that happened.
I'm trying to recall the exact
Where were you when you wrote
inspiration, but I was here in Atlanta. Yeah.
it? Living in Little Five Points, or?
No, I was living back on Briarcliff.
Okay. And so tell me about the song then.
I composed all the music for it, and just sitting down messing around with an open tune, with a tuning that was different, and coming up with chord sequences that I liked, and a melody that I liked, something that built. And I was real proud of that one particular part of that song at the ending, where I had a breakdown of it, of the music, where the drums and the guitar break down, and then there's like a melody in between.
Was that a part of the original concept, or did that grow out of playing?
That was part of the original. It was part of the original idea, yeah. With volume swells on the drums and the cymbal swells.
For the light of new light and the hope of new hope and the course of a new course and the dream of a new dream.
Who played with you on that song?
I did almost all of it, but I had Erik Kaszynski, the drummer.
What did he bring?
He brought his artistry and his interpretation of fills and so forth. And I'm being not a drummer myself, I couldn't have come up with some of those fills and everything. I had the main beat that I had on like a MIDI sequence, the main beats, but then he came up with those and those fills in between.
As I approach the dawn in the light of new light, the shades of the dusk become a glimpse in my sight, and shadows drift away, yet I still long to feel spaces for shades now to shine.
So this song is called Yearnings, and when I originally conceived the music of this song, my idea was to have something that was, at least for the guitar part, to have an open tuning, where the E strings are tuned down to D. And when you do that and you play in the key of D, it gives all those chords a nice consonance about them. But also some of these chords, when you have these open strings ringing, there's a dissonance as well, but it creates tension, but it still sounds great when you resolve. And I also wanted to have something that was began very intimately with just like acoustic guitar, voice, and at the end built to this majestic pinnacle of layered sound and orchestration. And then from the lyrical standpoint, I wanted something that was uplifting and celebrated the infinite possibilities of life, but also something that where you had the yearning at times for the darker elements of human nature, and the idea was to coalesce the dark and light elements of human nature into a unified whole, so as to be to attain self-actualization. So then the chorus of this song sounds like this. As I ascend on a mountain high, or descend in a valley low, unfolding discoveries, promise that resounds as I wait, still I wait for the beacon to be found.
Harmony parts in Yearnings, Alex.
Yeah, he, there was one part on the last chorus where he had me do, like, one of the harmony part, he had me do one of the melodic and harmonic parts from the previous one and put that into the last one. I didn't think that could possibly work, having like these multi-layered melodies and then harmonies on top of that. I was like, how's that going to work? I'm like, but he goes, just try it, we'll see, we'll do it. And he did it, and it was one of those things where I was like, I said, that's crazy, man. But it actually sounded good. Cause
When you hear it, do you go,
yeah, when I heard that, I was like, that's really wild, but it's also really cool. As I ascend on a... Oh, yeah. On this, I have to do a different harmony, I forgot.
Go. Oh man, don't.
What?
Yeah, do the other harmony.
Wait, you're saying that not the harmony that I had before?
Do the second.
The harmony that I had for the second chorus put in this?
Yeah.
Along with the other harmony?
Correct.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
We'll see how that sounds. So just the same harmony?
Yeah.
Put along with the new melody?
Yeah.
All right, we'll try it. Cool.
Here we go.
Yeah. As I ascend on a mountain high, or descend in a valley low.
Let's check that out.
Damn, that's wild. God. Damn. That's crazy, man.
Huh?
That's freaking crazy.
Is it cool?
It sounds pretty, I'm crazy awesome.
Okay, good.
In a lot of ways. I mean, and what do you think?
No, I think it sounds great.
Well, one of the things I noticed was that they were reserved sometimes, like some of the, in the performances, the drummers.
and you had to let them go?
And I had to make them
Yeah.
go. Like, they were reserved because they had been on other sessions where they wanted to hold, where they thought they should hold back, or where that artist wanted them to hold back. And I wanted the opposite. I wanted them to bring their skill and their art to this song, you know, what they could do. And that's why I hired them, because I knew that they were capable of doing more than they were putting out.
I know there was a moment Erik was a little excited about with the fills.
Yeah, because he was telling me that the sessions that he had done were always very controlled and reserved. And so he always held back, because a lot of times that's what people wanted, you know, just to be very straight beat. And I kept trying to get him to do more and more, and he was still reserved, you know. And I was like, well, just do what, you know, what comes naturally, what you feel, just adding a little more fills. And then, so he was reserved until the end, and where he let loose and did more fills. And then at the end of that, he was really excited, and it was like, that was so fun, man, that was great.
So we started recording the rhythm tracks that day. He was playing the bass, and I was laying down the drum track. and I was really trying to serve the song and just kind of lay down the pocket, and Alonso was encouraging me to put more into the music, put more of myself into the song. So that was kind of a nice compliment. You know, he really, I felt like he really wanted to hear my sound, my take on the song. The groove was really fun. It was a little bit more of a unique groove, more so than just a straight 2/4 backbeat. The arrangement just turned into something really, really nice, and I think towards the end we even added we overdubbed some cymbal swells and kind of got some textural things going on from the drums that day. And I think we really hit on something and came out with a real nice track that day.
So this is the real snare.
Right.
And there's a little boxiness to it, like a call that I felt was crowding your vocal. So what I did is I kind of gated it a little bit. And then I added some EQ.
Right.
Clear up that build up. That's a pretty big difference right there.
Yeah. I just remember being real reticent.
Yeah.
When I was like, are you not gonna put a sample in there, are you? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, no, I can't. My purity won't allow you to do it. And you're like,
This is an oldie but goodie.
oh yeah. What's it?
It's a trick to.
What's
I'll
it?
take some white noise
Oh yeah.
and
White noise.
yep. Yeah, and I'll
Huh.
trigger it with a snare.
Huh. Oh
to,
yeah.
It's interesting.
Oh man, that sounds like a.
Alright, let's see.
That sounds cheesy.
Yep.
Unfolding discoveries.
Yeah, well, let me play around with it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, trust me.
Okay. But then once you did it and mixed it all together, it sounded great.
It all adds
Yeah.
adds up.
Yeah.
So finally I added a little sample to it, and here's the sample sound. And it's just a sample of a real snare with a little
Right.
bit of echo on it. Alright.
Yep.
And let me solo the drums.
Yeah, with everything mixed in.
That's just the whole drum set.
Okay.
So, and then this is with the extra sample. This right here is without the sample. You can tell that it's just not hitting quite
Yeah.
like the way I want it to.
I remember you said you liked the tuning was a little tight on that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
it
had
is,
to do
exactly.
And you had to add some stuff to.
So, and here it is with the sample.
Cool. Nice. And then play it in with the whole tracks, all the tracks.
Eclipses old in the hope of new hope.
Do that guitar solo part.
Found.
Was an idea. I had to double that, doing separate tracks,
Right.
but double it.
Right, because
in
it came
unison.
in a little different.
Yeah, and then there's a sustain on that at the end that sustains into the last chorus. It's kind of cool.
think that double went down here.
I get you. Yeah, there.
Yeah, I remember I was trying to get that to stay.
Oh, yeah. Right, because you kept going like this, like you said. And I was just going. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, but on that part, I remember that was you had the idea of doing a scratch track of unamplified electric. That was cool. Yeah, that's something I hadn't thought about. It's cool. Ah, cool.
So yeah, that
Nice.
adds just like
Yeah.
like a little thing chunking along in the background. I got that off of
You said it was Jeff Buckley, right?
Jeff Buckley.
It was
yeah.
Andy
Grace.
Wallace, right. Yeah, which was cool. Oh, play that solo again.
Just the solo?
Yeah.
And on this one we got an amp.
Right.
And we also picked up the DI.
Oh, okay, yeah, oh, that's right.
And it adds, the amp is cool in itself.
Yeah. I forgot you had the DI.
But with the DI in there, you get a little bit more pluck right at the top of the notes.
Right. I gotta hear that.
Right on the
Right. Play that last chorus.
Unfolding discoveries, promise that resounds as I wait, still I wait for the light, new light, and the hope of new hope.
Yeah, I was real impressed with this mix. I remember when I got it back, the final mix.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember texting you later on when I heard it in the car stereo. I was like, this is fucking incredible, you know. And you were like, awesome, man. I'm glad to hear it. You know?
Yeah.
'Cause there's just
We
like
spent
this,
a lot of time tweaking it up.
Yeah. But there's a lot of just ambient, and it's full and big and, you know, kind of majestic, which is what I was going for.
As I wait, still I wait for the light of new light and the hope of new hope and the course of a new course and the dream of a new dream. And for the merging of the dark and light to bring me to where I am complete.
Here we go. So these are rhythm marks over here. And then the lead's gonna come up on the 5 and 6 right there. And then the organ's on 3 and 4. And
5 and
here it
6.
comes. Yep.
Right here.
Yeah, these two.
Could you solo that ambient drum?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So that's the sound of the room out there. This is
freaking cool. I mean, I remember wanting to do that,
Yeah, so that's the sound of the room that we recorded in, the drums.
Right, right.
So
That's
it's,
the room.
with the mics way far away.
Yeah, right here. I remember 2
Yeah,
mics.
exactly, yep. So the mics were probably 10, 15 feet in front of the drums, I guess. And
Listen to that. Listen to that sound.
It's this one. Oh, I'm solo now. So that's just the sound of the room. Now you got the control there, yeah.
That's something I always wanted to do. I mean, I had read about that, in music books and that I had collected, magazines and
Recording magazines.
Yeah, and wanted to do that because I'd heard that people use distant mics on the drums and it gave like this ambience and this.
Especially for
this
real rocking
fullness.
songs. Like,
Yeah. So it's something I always wanted to do.
Well, that,
Can you go back to that bridge?
sure. Which was the first place the organ came in, maybe?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, here we go.
I was proud of this part.
Yeah. Yeah, and the feedback came in at the right second.
Play that
Play that
again.
again.
That was one of the things that was.
That was great.
Yeah, play that again.
Uh-huh.
That was
That's
one of
nice.
the things that's a happy accident.
Yeah, right,
I
right.
didn't plan on that being the note that it was like
Yeah.
but the 9
Yeah.
going back to the 1 but I mean that worked out
Perfect setup,
because it was anticipation.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you go back to that solo?
Sure.
Yeah.
Was it the beginning of this section here?
Not that, but right after the bridge.
Okay.
So soon after that first organ comes in, right here.
Let's push the guitar up a little bit.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And that's the Les Paul, right?
That's the last Paul.
Yeah, that sounds great.
That was one of those nights where I happened to be on. Sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm off, and that night, I was, I was on.
It just worked.
I'm a very on and off player.
Yeah, me too.
And that night I was on, so I did about 4 good takes all the way through solo.
Right.
But that was the best one, I think, of all. I like the way Darren built up the drums on that part.
Yeah, yeah. He really listens.
Yeah.
What a great musician.
Yeah.
Man. And then we faded out on it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that's the first part of the Aeon riff. And when I conceived that riff, my idea, and that was to have a part that was very sparse and had a lot of space in between the riff and silences in between the riff. And that way, when the riff comes back in, it has more impact. It creates this vacuum in the silences that when it comes back in, it has more impact and more force, more power. And the other part of that is that I wanted to have an interplay between the drums and the guitar riff. So when there's silences in the guitar riff, you have the drums coming in between that, and there's this interplay. And then there's this second part of the riff, which is a little bit lighter. It sounds like this. Yeah, it's kind of a lighter part, but it has more harmonic expansion. And also there's this bass droning in A that kind of drones throughout the whole thing, and the tonality doesn't change for the bass part. And so what that does is create interesting harmonies when you have these chords that go on top of it. Kind of offbeat, like syncopation on those toms and stuff on that part. More toms and less cymbals and stuff. Or
From the beginning?
just building up. So right, yeah, just that kind of thing.
Without, let's try it again.
Yeah, and then at the end doing rolls with toms and stuff. You know, they're just going.
It needs somewhat of an underbelly, or you really,
right.
like, just
Keep a hack. Yeah, like a hack going. Yeah.
cool.
Something like
Keith
that.
Moon.
Yeah, definitely. Keith Moon, exactly.
Asshole drumming.
Right, totally. Yeah, because asshole was. It
Go
should be
around.
about fourth bar. Yeah.
Dunk.
And then on that outro, on one of these things, that would be cool to have like a right in sync with.
And then, so obviously, Alonso comes in with this idea, this sort of idea of mixing all these different parts of his musical background into one album. First of all, tell me what your sort of idea was when you start working with Alonso, and how that process worked, how, where it started and where it grew to.
Right. Okay, well, Alonso is very well organized. He knows exactly what he wants when he comes in. He has it mapped out, charted out, even synthesizer parts, playing, what will be guitar parts, so he works it out all out at home and has it very well organized when he comes in. A lot of people aren't like that. They'll come in just, I've got some lyrics and maybe a melody, and I'll just sing that, and you make the rest of it happen.
You called him a mature musician. What does that mean to you? When you think of Alonso as a mature musician, what are you saying?
Someone who's played 50 or 100,000 hours, someone who's really spent their time studying it and approaches it from an artist standpoint, not a glitzy, I want to be a star kind of standpoint, but someone who makes the study of music their life, which is how I am, and many people that I know are just, we're immersed in the scientific study, the emotional study, the physical study of the science of music and all the different ways that you bring various emotional outcomes.
I talked to Alonso a lot as this project was going along, and it was just interesting how many different influences he was bringing to this project. Mm-hmm. Does that, I imagine it probably adds a challenge for you, but maybe adds some fun too, in that it's always fresh and it's always different.
Right, and there's a lot of variety into it, so it's not getting stale, stuck in one genre all the time. We both studied classical, jazz, rock, blues, all the different styles that, we hear all the time in popular music, as well as, arty music like jazz and classical stuff. So actually the more experience and broad range that a person has, the more comfortable I am, because I'm that way. I've been doing this since 1959, and so I've had a chance to, go through all the grammar school and high school band playing classical stuff. Got out of high school and started playing like Broadway type stuff out of Six Flags. Then after that worked in clubs for 10 years playing rock and country stuff. And then since that moved into private parties and weddings and working in the studio. So the more range of experience a person has, the more I can help them, really. And if somebody doesn't have much, then it's harder to know what to do,
I imagine you've done a million of these sessions.
Yes,
on
thousands and
and on and on. What makes Alonso and working with him unique?
Well, for one thing, that broad range is not that usual. A lot of people come in and they have what they do, and in many cases, they kind of burrow their way into their own little world, and they have a limited scope, basically. Somebody like Alonso is a relief to me because he knows so much about music, and he's not ego-driven in anything. It's not like, this is my project and it's never going to change. He's not that way, and most really experienced musicians are not. They leave their ego at the door and listen to what other suggestions might be, and then if you don't like the suggestion, fine. And nobody's going to take offense to that. You just say, well, fine idea, however, I want to do it this way. That's great, so that takes some personal maturity as well.
Yeah, I guess you talk about that flexibility from day one. You see what he comes in with,
right,
to the finished product, which is right over there. What's your impressions of what you got out of this album that he put together? What are your thoughts on the project?
It's reminiscent of something that I would like to do. In other words, I love this kind of thing. That all my songs are the same way. They range all the way from classical all the way to the funkiest jazz you can think of, and so it's heartwarming to me, to see somebody who's really into the music, into the art, not just looking at the dollar. Of course, it's nice to get paid when you can, but that's not the motivation. The motivation is to do the music and the art, and then we try to market it as best we can, but that's not really the point. The point is to do the art. The point is to make the music.
Do you have a memorable moment or a memorable experience in this process that sort of stands out to you? I suppose there could be several.
Yeah.
But is there anything that jumps out at you that you think, oh, this was an experience?
Right. It's always really fun when the drummers come in, and we can hear the actual live drummer bringing all his cool drummer stuff to it. And then when guitar solo time comes, because that's a real creative process there. You never know where it's going to lead. It might start out with one direction, like more bluesy, and then end up much more jazzy or something like that. Or the reverse. It might end up, being real intellectual, and then turn into just like real visceral kind of stuff, like
And that's okay, because that's the process, right?
That's what I like. The more variety, the better for me.
Yeah, I remember there was this was the hardest thing I had to do.
Yeah.
Just writing the charts. It took me months to do this. I mean, it's just writing and doing revisions.
Right.
And,
I can imagine.
And I remember having to do just several revisions and having to get all these accidentals in there and stuff like that. It was
And
hard,
these rhythms
hard
are so
thing. The rhythms are so weird,
hard to figure out.
Yeah. So that was a challenge.
Yeah.
But it's satisfying.
Yeah. And I remember Judy, when she first looked at it, she was going, "Wow, how do
That was the
I
next thing-
play this?"
That was the next thing I was going to say. Was she was mad. I remember she was not mad, but she was like, sort of like lightheartedly
Right,
angry.
right.
She was like, she goes, I hate you right now. I said, I hate you right now. Because she said having to punch in every few minutes was so difficult.
Yeah, right.
She was like, I'm hating you right now.
So it was challenging in the sense that the rhythms that he wrote are very intricate. Some of the passages caused me to curse him frequently because they were really, really tricky. This spot right here was one of those. This spot over here was another one. I still get a little scared when I look at certain of these pages, but I've used these some of these rhythms to test students that I teach, and they kind of wig out because nobody has seen rhythms like this. Whenever I've played a piece or recorded a piece for the composer, I want to be very honest to the composer's intent and wishes as written on the paper. Alonso clearly had a really strong sense of the overall project. When I got to hear the entire recording with all the other instruments added in, then the whole thing made much more sense in a lot of ways because these crazy passages, it worked so nicely with the other instruments and kind of made me feel like, okay, now I get what his vision was. This is a huge project to take on from a managerial standpoint in terms of lining up musicians and time in a studio and then working with each musician or set of musicians to get accomplished musically and artistically what you want to have and what your vision, that picture in your head and in your ear, to get that expressed accurately and artistically.
Another thing I remember is that Marla was having, she had that personal crisis, that she had
Oh,
gone
that's
through.
right. Yeah, her husband was sick.
Husband, yeah.
Wow.
And I was just remember her being very kind of irritated with some of my imperfections in the notation. And I remember
She's that way with everybody.
And I just remember being going, I was being kind of irritated myself, and I was like, just
Let it go.
Let it go.
Want to do that chromatic run?
Do that over and over again until we accidentally get it.
Yeah. So I'll start a measure before the chromatic run?
Yeah.
Okay.
But really, to her credit, she came in and made these corrections on my notation.
Yeah.
But then she got it in sync with the piano and got it in nailed it.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah, she's very much a perfectionist, in her playing and also in the written music, sheet music
stuff.
She loves to have it just exactly the way she imagines it. Which is sometimes we as writers,
right.
It might not. We might write it a different way or hear it a different way than a player might, envision it or something.
Exactly.
Like
It's like interpretation.
Exactly.
Because I had to get that just as close as possible, on that notation.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Then sometimes the way they hear it or see it may be different than the way you hear or see it. So.
The same with Judy. It was reinterpreting.
Right.
But then, so Marla had to sync with that piano.
Right.
To get those rhythms right in sync with each other.
It's almost
especially on those ascending parts.
Yeah, do.
Yeah, and the descending parts.
Right.
Yeah. I remember the idea. I was trying to transcend myself and do something that was unlike anything I'd ever done, and be like a composed piece, and have something that was. I composed something that of no instruments that I played, of none of the instruments I played, having but composed.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Something like that where I don't play any of the instruments.
Wow. Which is a lot harder, I would think, to write for an instrument that you don't play.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Cool stuff. I love the way the string parts work together with the piano and everything. All interweaves, it's like. And just viola and, and then the cello.
one we did in Logic. One reason we did it in Logic is because we brought in a lot of MIDI information.
Oh, right. That's right.
And with
For the pad, the string
yeah,
pad.
the string pads
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I'm a little bit more adept at MIDI stuff, and Logic seems a little bit easier, especially at that time, to use MIDI instruments with
Oh, cool.
MIDI information. So
Very cool.
that's why we did it in Logic. It was only logical.
Perfect. Perfect.
Um,
That had to be said.
That had to be said, yes. So anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I remember you took the original MIDI thing that I had and brought it into and made a better pad.
Yeah, so we have
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different string sounds.
Uh-huh. Oh, really? Wow. Oh, wow, that's cool.
So I have a little small string ensemble. Barely can hear it probably, but it's really mellow.
Yeah.
Sounding, and then that one's the full string sound.
Uh-huh.
Here's another dark string sound that we pulled in.
Wow.
Little organy,
Huh.
somewhat organ type of sound.
Uh-huh. Huh. I'm
And
glad I
then,
did.
and then a higher pitched, like, phasey type of thing.
I'm glad we're doing this because I didn't realize you did all that. Oh, that's cool.
And then there's, I think it looks like there's an electric little, like a mellotron,
Oh, really? That's what it
mellotron type of string. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Or even just, it's like a organ electric string.
So that's the synthesis of all those? Oh, wow.
You can hear some of that organ, like the synthesized stuff in there, but because the strings are pushed up front so much more.
Yeah, this is great.
And here's our Isaac Perlman track.
Oh, is it?
No.
I should have gone with that. Should have played along.
Yeah, right. But
But the other
and it looks like
floor mics.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Looks like, and I'm looking the.
You brought in like 3 floor mics,
Yeah.
and I'd never seen that before.
Oh, the little PZMs.
Yeah.
Right. My little flat mics that lay on the
Oh,
ground.
yeah, I'd never seen that. Yeah.
Those are great for stages, and what those do is, if you put them on a big flat surface, the whole surface kind of becomes the microphone.
Yeah. That's
So you can really capture room tones and stuff like that.
Oh, cool. That's awesome, man.
That was pretty good. Yeah, it looks like we did a near one and then a far one.
Right.
And,
I think I remember that. Can you go solo those?
That's a far. Oh no, that's a near one. And that's just the room tone. That's just the tone of that
Right
room.
tone of that room. Right. It's the natural ambience of the room.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then here's a far one. It seems like I hope I didn't mislabel them. No, I did mislabel them.
Oh yeah.
No, maybe not. Just might be a. That sounds a little closer. So those are the PZMs, and here's the up close mic.
I remember on the first couple of takes, you had a click track in there,
Yeah.
but I didn't like it because I wanted to have more rubato with the tempo and
Mm-hmm.
more liberty with it, and so we took that click track out and just recorded kind of as it felt more naturally what I would feel to do with the timing rather than.
Yeah, and
being
you
kind of-
stayed to the strings pretty well.
Yeah. Some of the cool things were actually play that guitar track. There's about 2 or 3 spots. Yeah, there was about 2 or 3 spots of accidental feedback like that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably my favorite thing of the whole. Yeah, I mean, I was inspired that day, but also, so the takes are good, but that accidental feedback,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of some of my favorite stuff in recordings.
Nice. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
those
yeah.
happy accidents.
Right.
You know, it's great.
Those, yeah, when you can't. You look at your guitar instrument and you're like amazed that it happened.
Right, right. What's that? Oh, yeah. Well, that's the cool thing about having the amp set at higher volumes. Is this really does the harmonics come out.
We got one song.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes, I think I remember you sitting there like this.
Exactly. I should shoot another video for
Yes,
that and have it.
the sun was
a different
setting at
scene,
that time, right?
Right. I should shoot another video. I'm going to the beach this week.
There you go.
I should bring the guitar and the amp.
That's right. And some
A long
string
extension
section.
cord, right?
Yeah, right. Little string section on the
Right, right. So this piece is entitled Alone in Time. And when I originally conceived the idea for this piece, what I had in mind was to do a guitar instrumental that was a slow, meandering, melodic instrumental, but that also used a scale that was not typical. It's a scale called Lydian mode, and it varies from the major scale by 1 note. And the major scale is something we're all familiar with through decades and actually hundreds of years of music. It goes back to classical music, but it's also used in classical, jazz, rock, pop. It's very familiar, and you will all be familiar with this. It sounds like this. But the mode I use, the scale that I use in this piece, has 1 note different. But that note changes the sound dramatically of the whole scale. It sounds like this. And that scale evokes different feelings, different emotions, and it's just a different feel altogether. It just, to me, it's got a more of an ethereal, yearning, sort of longing quality about it, and which I really liked. So the piece continues like this. And in that part of the composition, I was thinking of having a melodic motif that modulated, but there's a consistency in that melodic motif, and then there are these chords that change underneath, giving it more harmonic variety. And so also there's one note I used. This. When I play that note the second time, the chord changes underneath it, so that gives it an interesting harmonic variation. So then more of the piece sounds like this.
Now to feel the light to see makes me long to set it free and guide away to wonder where it lay. To feel the light is hope to see, to find a way for me.
So this song, The Light, is both about the inspiration to travel as well as the inspiration from travel. It's about also the notion that there is a place in my heart as well as physical places that occupy space in my heart that yearn for experience and yearn for experience specifically from travel. The concept of light is also symbolic of a realization or an epiphany that instills a yearning to travel, but that light is also symbolic of a light that now shines once one has had the experience from travel.
Light to see when we long to see. Gives the sense of something there to be. In a place here that's waiting there for me. A way to find a source of that to give. To spirit always yearning and that is lost. Seeking out the treasures found at the cross. The cross between the known and unknown.
Tell me the song and tell me about it.
Well, The Light, though, I have to admit, that song was an old one from 1995.
That's sort of interesting, though, to go back and try to dig through and reinterpret an old song.
Exactly. And I wanted to, that wasn't well produced on that demo, and I wanted to record it professionally, do it right, and produce it well, add parts where necessary, and get good performances with real players. I had a drum machine on that demo, and this is a real drummer, real pianist, no samples, all real instruments. Nice, right?
Yeah.
Go a little further. There's something I wanted to
Find a way for me.
back a little.
A light to see makes me long to set it spirit always yearning, and that is lost, seeking out the treasures found at the cross between the known and unknown. Now to feel
my idea on that was on this vocals to have just crescendo and dynamics and intensity, you know, and then build to the, and then kind of have reach a crest, and then kind of come back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now to feel the light to see makes me long to set it free, and guide away to wonder where it lay. To feel the light is hope to see, to find a way for me.
Anyway, what else would you like to talk about this?
Yeah, just go into the main part. This was something I remember hearing you did. We did 2 or 3 mixes that sounded good, but there was something I still wasn't hearing on with the like fullness or something that I was trying to get. Had to go back and listen to some of the classic albums, some of my favorite albums,
Right.
rock albums, and it just was the guitar. I wanted it to be bigger and wider, you know.
Yeah.
And then I said, so how can you do that, you know? And then you had came up with the idea of stacking multiple takes.
Oh,
and then
I
panning
moved them around.
And then
yeah.
that was the thing that glued the whole mix together.
We did a fun little thing here with the guitar, with the drums.
Yeah.
We added. You can hear the snares. Sounds fairly dry.
Yeah. Right.
Just a little room reverb on there.
Nice.
Pictured you with a white shirt on the cliff, wind blowing.
Like some of those videos on TV, late 80s. You know? Right. Maybe I could still do that.
Yeah, you should. You should.
Right.
Here we have your brother, right?
Right.
Yeah, the piano adds a lot to
The
that
piano
section when it
adds
comes in.
so
It really,
much to that.
really helps push
Yeah.
that song on.
There was a great moment I remember in this solo that I did a few takes, and one was that you really loved a lot. But I recorded another one because I wanted to get it all the way through because I wanted to have something a note feedback at the very end.
Uh-huh.
And I remember being really excited about that, and I was like, yeah, that's great, you know. And then, but you're like, well, I still think the other one's better.
Yeah, man. Sweet.
I still think the other one was better.
Oh, that was better, you think?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, man.
remember that you had thrown in there at the end of that when I was doubling that part.
Uh-huh.
And I had, it was 2 tracks. And then we did another track, and you put that on top of it unexpectedly.
Right.
I wasn't expecting that.
To fill it in.
To fill it in, and that was something you did. And then when I heard that back, I thought, man, that's crazy, but that is awesome.
Yeah, it works out.
And I just remember being really jazzed about that.
Yeah, because the drums were recorded separately, so there was no cues for you to record that part. So you didn't really know when that end part was coming.
Right.
So I think we did it one time, and you almost got it, but you could feel the separation.
Right.
Or hear the separation between you and the drums.
Right.
So when we added the second one, it kind of blurred it a little bit, but kept the excitement up, and then we just kind of laid in the final hit at the right time.
That's definitely better, don't you think? Let's see. That's actually cool. That's actually pretty hands-on, man. It just blows up and then. Let me do that again. It is awesome. That is cool.
The other on the last CD, I just tried to get everything too perfect.
Yeah.
And it just took some of the soul and emotion.
Of course.
Out of it. And that's why I didn't want to do any really pitch correction on this stuff, because it's like I wanted to get the emotion across.
Now to feel the light to see makes me long to set it free, and guide away to wonder where it may. To feel the light is hope to see, to find a way for me.
One of the things I remember when I started this was one of the early ones, was I wanted this to be a project about art for the sake of art.
Yeah.
And art as a means, not as a means to an end, but as an end in itself.
Yeah, the process.
The process.
Is what it's
Right, and the process of creation, the process of rendering the art, and the process of creation.
Right. And without any monetary goal in mind or anything, just do it for the sake of the music.
Love of music, love of the art.
Absolutely, that's the way all good art comes out of it. If you're trying to do it for a buck, it's not the same thing.
Right. Yeah, because you're not, in that way, you're not really enveloped in the art itself.
Right, exactly.
Because you're always thinking about the future. And,
right, exactly. Reece on drums.
Yeah.
The first one we did was The Light, and I remember Alonso and I getting very excited about it because he told me before he gave me the rough demo to listen to that it was this grand, sweeping, operatic 70s art rock style anthem.
light. And when I originally conceived of composing this work, I had visions of grandeur. I wanted to do something that was epic, something that took you on a journey and weave a tapestry of different sections together. Some which were very straight ahead rock like this one, and others that were lighter, more ethereal, and others that were kind of dreamy. And I wanted to do that through different time changes, through different tempo changes, and different mood changes. Part of the other conception I had in this was to have something that crescendoed into a pinnacle of intensity, using layers and layers of orchestration to build up to that pinnacle. And then my idea was to have it decrescendo, and then toward the end have a reprise of this acoustic intro that I had, and bringing that together as bookends. And then I have this next section which is lighter. Delay on here, as you can hear. And that to me evokes a feeling and imagery of vast open spaces and different dimensions. And it adds a texture, another layer, and a contrast to the rock part. So then on top of that lighter, ethereal chord sequence I just played you, I compose a melodic motif to go on top of it. It sounds like this. So then I go into this next section, which is not really light, but not too heavy either. It's somewhere in between, and I do this kind of double time on the rhythm, and the chord changes are based on probably some classical music that I've been influenced by at one point or another. It sounds like this. And then I composed a different melodic motif to go on top of this last section I just played you, and that one sounds like this.
Worked out a few things that I wanted to do with it, and Alonso had a couple of very specific fills in mind, but I very often in the studio, especially if there's going to be vocals on the track, my tendency, and maybe a lot of other drummers' tendencies, is to play very conservatively so you're not stepping on anyone's part, particularly the singer. And so I started playing the verses kind of conservatively, and Alonso kept telling me, yeah, just more fills, play more, be yourself, express yourself fully, and he said everything short of just go nuts. So I did end up doing a bit more than I had in mind, and I was happy to do that, and was grateful for the permission to do it. And so we got through the tune, and we got to the end of the drum part, and Alonso wanted this grand crescendo, and so we did one take, and Alonso said, okay, that was good, but I really need you to empty your tank on this last one. Just give it everything you have. So I did just that and gave it everything I had. It was this comically overblown, insane, as many notes as you can possibly cram into, 20 seconds as you can. And when it was over, Alonso started laughing, and we had some big laughs in the control room afterward, and it was a lot of fun.
There's something I wanted to say on that. I mean, that was something where I wanted, he was being a little bit more reserved. I mean, he was throwing some stuff in there, but I said, no, just do a little bit more fills here and keep building it and building it up.
Right.
And I didn't anticipate him building it up to be that over the top. And then when it was when he had done with that, I just keeled over and laughed, just because it was just so over the top.
Yeah.
But it was so over the top, awesome.
Yeah, right, in a very good way.
And I remember him saying, afterwards, after I stopped laughing, laughter from joy.
Right.
And he goes, I'll never do that to a woman. And I said, don't ever do that to anyone. I want to even be even more crazy than that. Especially in the very last part. The very last part, a lot of just toms and snares just going. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what it will do, is just slowly build up and more fills between each of those. Boom, boom, boom. Dum, dum, boom, boom. That's awesome. Dude, that was more than enough violence right there, dude. And don't do that to anyone. Right.
Now to have the light with me, to see the clear path to the free, and a dream that found a way to fill the cup where chances lie. Today